Welcome to the Work Camping with Why Not Wonder podcast. We're back today with another Q&A.
So what we're doing, if you've missed any of our prior Q&A episodes, we're taking 5 of your questions and each of us are answering from our perspective. So let's get started.
Number one, I'm worried about getting jobs and then they fall through on the employer's end.
Now this actually happened to us. We took a job with a fireworks company and it was a reputable company. We heard good things about it. However, we were having a really hard time communicating with the owner. It was very spotty. Red flags were going up, but we just kind of chalked it up to we were just being
Sensitive,
sensitive.
but also I remember saying to you, I think he's just very unorganized. I don't think there's an actual system to what he's doing.
Yeah, and I remember thinking, well, he just doesn't communicate well. So that's just okay. This is actually the first job that we took where we didn't get a contract in writing. We've never done that prior to this. And we just, again, chalked it up to poor communication and he wasn't very organized. So it has happened to us. There were red flags that we should have paid attention to. And going forward, we will. We won't let this happen again. It was a learning experience for us, but I don't think it's the normal, but it does happen.
I just want to say a lesson learned for us in this is we were just talking about this. We could have picked up the phone and said, look, we need an honest conversation here. We don't feel good about this. We're not getting answers to our questions via email. You are not being open with us about location. We need these answers to feel good about this job. Can you please make us feel good about this job? And at that point, it would have been very black and white if he could or could not do that. So that to me is a big, big lesson learned. And again, like you said, heeding those red flags, honoring those when we were each having them. I think it was easy because they were spaced so far apart. It was him saying like, I don't feel good about this. I think it took you a lot longer to not feel good about it
I
than it
agree.
than it did me. I was saying this isn't right, something isn't right, and you were just kind of like, I mean, I was stressed out at the time, so I think everything felt big, and I think you were seeing that in me, so I think
Yes,
it was easy to just say calm
to
down.
kind of dismiss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you finally rose up, I was like, calm down. It's not a big deal. So again, I think just honoring those in each other and trusting your gut is huge.
Yes. Now, I will say, just to close this, my answer, we have talked to somebody recently, not too long ago, that worked for this company, and he had nothing but good things to say about the company. So it wasn't necessarily a bad job. We just probably should have communicated with him.
But he also could have done a much, much better job communicating with us.
I agree.
It was very, very poor. So my answer to this would be it's maybe not exactly what this question is, but showing up to a job and not having the same job that you actually agreed to come there for. We have not seen this happen in the whole time we've been on the road until just this last season. And one of my coworkers was hired to do a completely different job in a completely different location in the resort. And when she got there, she was told that her job was going to be different. She was going to be working in the mailroom with us, and it was very physically demanding. We were on our feet the entire time we were there and hauling mail in, hauling packages in. I mean, it was definitely a physically demanding job, heavy packages too. And she was really not able to do those kinds of things. So it just, for her, everything was different than what she was told she was going to be coming there for. So I think a lesson learned here is to be very, very open with your questions when you're asking the employer, when you're interviewing. Is there any chance I could get there and my job responsibilities could be different? Because I just need to know that. If that's not your personality and you can show up and you can either clean toilets or work outside and pull weeds or sit at the front desk at the office and you're good with that, then you don't even need to worry about asking. For me, I need to know.
Yeah. So, question number 2. Are the jobs competitive to get into with so many other full-time travelers?
I would say this is location and season dependent on this. Florida for the winter, absolutely, you're going to have very competitive market as far as work camping jobs. You're going to need to get very creative with what you do as far as that goes. Location wise, I would say if you're wanting to work in Yellowstone, Glacier, all of those big national parks, beautiful places, there are tons and tons of jobs. I mean, definitely a lot of work. But do I think it's more competitive with the pay and the full hookup site and getting into maybe private locations? I do think that it's getting more competitive because of more people work camping and more people needing the income.
My answer to that would be it is possibly more competitive, but we still see tons of job postings while we're working. Like I said in a prior episode, early season, mid season, and even at the end of the season, we have still seen job postings. It may not be the area that you wanted to go to for that season, but there are tons of jobs out there. The other half of my answer to this question would be if it is competitive in a certain area, maybe one of you work for the RV resort or campground, and the other, like what I do, I hack work camping and get a job in the local area. So that option is always out there as well.
I do think volunteer positions can also be a little bit competitive based on location. You will have volunteers who have been there for so many years, and it's such a beautiful location that you're just not going to get your foot in the door. So, as far as competitive, I do think that again, I think it's just getting a little more competitive. But like he said, there's a ton of jobs out there. You might just not be in the location that you are hoping to be in.
Question number three: do you still get to see the surrounding areas, or are you working most of the time?
We only accept jobs with a 4-3 schedule. And when I say we only accept jobs with a 4-3 schedule, I mean when we're accepting a 4 to 6 month commitment. We are not going to go somewhere and agree to work 5, 6 days a week and only have 1 or 2 days off a week to explore the area. So we will work with the employers and ask for a 4-3 schedule, 4 days on, 3 consecutive days off. We're willing to work longer days if we need to. We really try to keep it to 32 hours, but we're willing to work longer days if that means we can have the 3 days off. We are still able to see the area and then some because of that schedule. We are able to get off work on those 4 days and we can either go run errands or we can go into, say, Yellowstone and enjoy the park after work and then enjoy it for the full 3 days that we are off.
Yeah, absolutely. We've spent so much time in Yellowstone on a 4-3 schedule and got to see so much. It was incredible. And it's amazing how refreshed you feel after 3 consecutive days off.
I feel like this country should go to a 4-3 schedule as a
Absolutely.
whole.
Absolutely. So, my take on this is there are seasons where you take gig work that is gig work, meaning short jobs that pay a lot of money, maybe 8 to 10 weeks. We do these as well. And we know during those 8 to 10 weeks, we're not there for the surrounding area. We are there to make a really good income in a short period of time. So you have both, and you just need to decide that season. Is it a 6 month season and you want a 4-3 schedule, or are you just looking to do gig work and make a bunch of money in a short period of time?
So, bottom line, as long as you're not in a heads down season where the financial part is more important than the surrounding area, you're going to definitely have plenty of time to see and enjoy that surrounding area. Number four, what's the best and worst job you've had?
Okay, so I'll start with the worst job. And the worst job for me, it's different than I think the reason is different than it is for you. But for me, I was working outside and the management was micromanaging everything. And you were not allowed to have any downtime. You were not allowed to just relax and enjoy yourself. If you weren't staying busy, they made sure that you had something to do. They were always on your case, even if it was, I want this whole area weeded. Go through and just weed that area because they felt that it was important that you never had any time to relax.
But here's the funny part. This is what's funny to me about you. That's who you are on a job when no one's telling you what to do, to the point where me and our friends are like, he needs to just chill a little bit. Like, this is annoying because you're like, what can I do? Gotta go. I gotta, I always have to look busy. I always have to be busy. So when you're saying that about somebody requiring that of you, I think it's just the micromanagement part of it,
Absolutely.
but you're very much that way on your own.
It's the micromanagement part.
Yeah.
It's having somebody standing over you who's more like a dictator, and I don't work well with that. Tell me what you want done and set me free, and I will go and I will stay busy and I will do things. Will I stop to have a drink of water and lean against the picket fence and just admire the scenery for a few minutes? Absolutely. But the worst job that I can think of that we've had, you weren't allowed to do that. If you weren't constantly doing something, they made sure to give you more work so that you had to stay busy. And that was just frustrating to me.
You also had to report as we got closer to the end before we resigned from that job. You were having to report every single action of what you were doing
What
that
I did
day
that day.
on the grounds crew. I mean, I've never heard of that before.
Yep.
And also, just hopefully, you know this by just watching our videos and knowing who we are. He's a very, very, very hard worker. It's it's not. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about having to always be working. That's just what I do naturally. I guess the issue for me is just the micromanagement and the dictatorship type of leadership. I don't do well with that. The best place we've worked, I would say there were several. And it just really comes down to having the space to breathe, enjoy the area, and just do the job with a smile. And there's not just one for me, there were several.
Really? You can't pinpoint one job that's the best job for you.
Well, I can say this: when we worked in Montana, I absolutely loved being able to, while I was working, maybe mowing grass or weed whacking, looking up and just seeing Yellowstone and seeing the mountains was absolutely amazing. And it gave me so much joy inside. So if I had to pick one, I would say Montana just for that reason. It was just an experience.
For me, the worst job, it had nothing to do with the employer or the location or anything. It was just, it was my first season on an outdoor team. So I was working side by side with him. And it was, it was laid back. It was so laid back. And most people would just absolutely love that. You absolutely love that. I went nuts because we were told to just drive around the campground and just enjoy the surroundings and enjoy talking to people. And I could not handle how slow it felt. It felt like every shift was 20 hours. And like patrolling in a police car, he's like, you just look around, you just see if anybody needs anything, you just enjoy that you get to just be out and driving around. And I'm like, oh my word, I can't handle this. This is not going to work. So that was my worst job.
I would say that has more to do, it's just your personality and being structured. You're very structured, you're very organized, you're very planned and prepared,
Task
you're
driven.
very task driven. So for you to drive around aimlessly and just like greet people or look for things to do was, it's just not your personality. You like to have that structure and you like to have the tasks and the target, and you like to aim for the target.
Yeah, if I can have a pile of work in front of me and know that this stack of work has to be done by the time I'm off work, that is the best for me. Absolutely love that. As far as best job, it was definitely, as far as the job itself, the mailroom that I just worked in. Oh my goodness, there wasn't a day that I didn't love going to work. I couldn't wait to get there to sort the mail, sort the packages, organize everything. It was just a dream job for me.
Yeah, but again, that was a job driven
By tasks.
by tasks. Yeah, it was task driven. You had something you had to do. It was organizational, which is something you love. It just fit so perfect with your personality.
And I was super busy the entire time. And that just, I really, really enjoy that kind of work. Location wise, that had nothing to do with location. And if I were to choose a location job, for sure Montana. And I love that work there too. We had absolutely wonderful employers. I loved being in the office. I loved doing the administrative work. So location and job, that would be. And then I just have to say Florida, if we're going to go location, I was cleaning bathrooms and I was sweating and just, I mean, in the heart of cleaning bathrooms, but the memories I have because of the location and just what a wonderful couple of seasons that was, that would also have a top ranking best memory for me, even though you were like, no.
I enjoyed Florida. I liked Florida, and we were very fortunate to have a wonderful job with wonderful people in management. But that doesn't rank as my favorite. Question number 5: is there a central location that we can search for campground jobs?
So I created a document because there are so many websites that you can use to find work camping jobs. I took the top 24 websites and put them into a document and organized it by the highlights of these sites. If you're looking for national park jobs, if you're looking to travel around with a company across the country with all the different locations that they have, if you're looking for specific jobs with housing or jobs that offer this or that. So you can go to whynotwander.com/jobs and request that document. And I promise you, there's nothing out there like this document, and you're going to find that it is so helpful in your job search.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on today's Q&A podcast. If you have any other questions, feel free to send them to us. You can DM us, or we will put a link below for our email. Feel free to send those to us. We would love to answer your questions.
Now, get
Get
out
out
there
there
and
and wander.
wander.
Thanks so much for listening to the Work Camping with Why Not Wander podcast.
You can see today's show notes at whynotwander.com/podcast. And if you haven't done so already, please sign up to receive regular updates from us, along with special discounts at whynotwander.com/updates.